Welcome to the Delighted Customers Podcast. I am so glad you're here. We challenge conventional thinking about customer experience because I believe that improving experiences isn't just good for business, it's a powerful way to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Each week, we feature thought-provoking conversations with industry thought leaders from a variety of backgrounds, offering unique perspectives and actionable insights. Get ready to sharpen your leadership and transform your approach to customer experience. Let's dive in. Well, thank you for joining us today on the Delighted Customers Podcast. I am so excited to have a returning guest, Bill Staikos. Bill and I met several years ago at a conference at Michigan State University. And at the time, Bill was a senior vice president at Medallia and impressed me. He took a role at one of the largest banks in the world, actually, the Bank of New York, which is the largest custodian bank with about $52.1 trillion in assets under management and is the 13th largest bank in the United States. Before that, Bill held leadership positions at JP Morgan Chase, Credit Suisse, and American Express. He is one of my favorite visionaries, and his company, a boutique consultancy, Be Customer Led, helps companies drive and scale business outcomes. And he's also launching a new podcast called The Multimodal Experience, a weekly show on how advanced tech is shaping relationships with the brands we buy from every day. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the everyday experiences we have as consumers and also how AI interconnects with that. Bill, thank you so much for coming back to the show.
It is my privilege and honor to be back here speaking with you. And it's a wonderful show and platform you've got. So thanks for having me back on.
Thank you, Bill. And I meant it when I said you're a visionary, always pushing the edges, always pushing us to think harder, outside the box, always willing to challenge the status quo. I love that about you.
Thank you. I try and ruffle some feathers now and again. It's always fun to break some glass every once in a while.
Well, it is because it keeps us thinking. And today I wanted to bring you back because I don't know, it's been a year or a year and a half since you were last on the show. So much has changed, especially in the world of AI. And you were leading a change at one of the largest banks, Bank of New York, with a big team. And I want to talk today about the direct impact of AI on customer experience management and the consumer. So kind of looking at both sides of the coin, if that's okay. Yeah. Absolutely. So first of all, let's do some level setting for the audience. When we talk about direct impact of AI on customer experience management and the consumer, help us understand what exactly we're expressing when we say that.
Well, I think that, one is what are the capabilities, include not just technology, but also the data, the architecture, the talent on the company side that we need to deliver an enhanced consumer or client experience to the individuals that are interacting with that brand every day. And that's very different than designing the experience that is consumer facing and leveraging capabilities like artificial intelligence or even simply, the app on your phone and the interconnectedness between the two. Some people call that service design. What does the front of the house and the back of the house look like? Others are just like, hey, I need to build this. Here's the goal and the objective and the outcome that I want to drive. I want to drive 30% more digital sales. Okay, that's a real outcome that we can design around, right? And build the capabilities internally and then measure that from a customer perspective in achieving that goal. So it's really taking a front of the house and back of the house view on how the capability operates, both behind the scenes and what's consumer facing as well. And then really painting that picture and that vision clearly for the firm and then building towards that vision and having the metrics behind it to then measure its success overall.
Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying that. Now, hopefully in terms of further clarifying, as we continue our conversation, maybe I might ask you to paint a picture with a couple of actual illustrations that are happening inside of companies. But before we do that, one of the next questions I always like to ask is, if I'm a C-suite leader, why should I care about this?
Well, let me start with why you shouldn't care about it, actually. That's also an important point. One, you shouldn't care about it because it's all over the place and it's a flavor du jour. I think that companies are jumping into AI in the wrong way. They're not, and they're saying, what's our AI strategy? That what they should be asking is, how does AI fit into my strategy? How does AI fit into the experience that we want to deliver for our consumers? How does AI fit into the talent and the organizational construct? And do I even have the right model, business model or organizational structure to be able to deliver on, through these new capabilities? And is that even meaningful to my clients or my customers? So like we're rushing into hiring the chief AI officer and other this stuff, and yeah, okay, that's fine. It's nice in an HBR article, and we should do that. But we're not starting with the why first. Now, why it's important and why CEOs should pay attention. One, the technology is transformational on a number of different levels, and your customers are using it and playing with it every day on their phones or on their laptops or PCs, what have you. So they are experiencing something that they are going to ultimately relate that experience back to what you are delivering from an experiential perspective. Here's a great example, and you might have seen this in a past life too. When Apple just kind of delivered these, agree from their terms and conditions. No, everyone's like, oh, I want terms and conditions as easy as Apple, or I want an Uber experience. A large bank saying we want an Uber experience is absolutely irrelevant. One, for starters, you are not Uber. You are a bank. Now, how do you take the context of banking and think about the ease of an Uber experience, I think is the way to think about it. So similarly for AI. So how are your consumers or clients or customers using this capability? Where can it be meaningful to enhance that experience for your customers by augmenting service interactions or sales interactions or digital interactions? And then how do we implement that internally? And what does that need to look like for our people to be using it in a smart way to deliver on our strategic objectives?
So what I heard you say, Bill, was that one of the mistakes that leaders can make is this FOMO worry.
Totally right.
Yeah, and they jump in with both heels and spend a lot of money on hiring someone or dedicating resources or bringing someone from the outside in to develop this AI strategy. And what you're saying is really the strategy for the organization, the customers it serves, the way the market it wants to deliver to needs to be what drives the AI, not the other way around.
Correct, right? The concept of human in the loop, which you may have heard or your listeners may have heard of, is a little bit strange to me. It means that we are part of this AI construct. A different way to be thinking about this is, no, AI is part of our business construct. And I think that we've put too much into the capability without really understanding first, why are we even using it? Why is that important to our company to use it and for our customers? For us to be using it, but also to put it in front of them in some customer-facing capacity, whether that's a service interaction or otherwise. And when we say human in the loop, it takes the human element out of that. And that's a really dangerous proposition, frankly, for a lot of organizations to jump in because of the FOMO piece, because you make mistakes through that process. You jump in too quickly without really answering the tough questions that your employees, frankly, need you to answer too.
Bill, I want to dig a little bit for some additional mistakes that you already see happening. One of the, just kind of going back to what we just talked about, you wrote a post very recently about the role of AI in the organization, the hiring of CAIOs, and this may be consistent with what we just talked about, is kind of bringing in resources, spending money, elevating this thing. And I responded back and said, the craftsman is using the tool, not the other way around.
That's right.
But I want to ask you if you are aware of other significant mistakes that you see leaders making when it comes to their perception and application of AI in their business.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes is giving people tools without giving them the resources, knowledge, understanding on how to use it. And you've got, all these studies around percentages of AI use in business contexts. Frankly, I think those numbers are BS. One, because you've said, we're now giving everybody access to ChatGPT. Well, congratulations. I've been using it for the last year on my phone personally. Okay, fantastic. Rah, rah, rah. Great. How am I supposed to use this in a business context? Is it safe for me to use it? If I have it help me develop a presentation that I deliver to the CEO or an executive at the company, will you look at me differently? Will you actually even believe the result? Will I potentially be fired because I've now saved a week's worth of time and boiled it down into 15 minutes and delivered a result maybe that you were super happy with? Now I'm petrified. So I think like in all things, like we saw this in digital transformation 15, 20 years ago, like this is about change leadership and about change management. And it comes down to people. Help them understand the why behind the technology. Help them understand and train them on how to use it effectively in their roles so they can produce more, right? That's a huge part of it. And right now, too many companies are just dropping the capability on someone's desktop and saying, go forth and use it. And I think that's a really scary proposition for employees because of the fear of, 50% of white collar jobs will be gone in 6 months or a year kind of storyline out there. So I think people are not using it or not using it effectively because companies have just dropped it on them.
Bill, tell me if you think this line of thinking is right, because when you're talking, I can't help but think of the ADKAR model, which is one of the most common popular models for change management, which is awareness, desire, knowledge, capability, and reinforcement of it. And so that means the employees need to be fully on board and have the tools, have the knowledge and the skills to deliver, and they have to know what's in it for them. All these things are part of any, if you believe in the ADKAR model, which I think most change leaders do acknowledge it, at least one of the best ones for many applications. It's true for AI. AI is really sort of an ongoing change management, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, one, it's evolving so quickly, right? I mean, 6 months ago, we had different models and we were using different models in different ways. Now we're creating almost long form video on some level with language that matches the video. I mean, it's just insane how quickly this stuff is evolving. And look, at the end, people don't create good narratives in their heads when they have fear. Like they're worried about their job. They've got to pay their bills. They have families to support, right? They've got their own issues at home. So you really need to spend the time up front helping people understand, why is the company rolling this out? Why is it important for the firm at this time? Why is it important for their customers to be using these capabilities with that brand? And then kind of going through, and I love the ADKAR model, then kind of following those steps to make sure that every step of the way, people are clear on how they should be using the capability. They are trained on it, and they understand how it impacts their role day to day and what your expectation is of them with those tools and capabilities too. I think that you can still take that ADKAR model, by the way, and turn the screen around and show it to your customers. Like, here's how we want you to be using this capability with us. And here's why it's important to us as a firm, right? And not only improves the experience, but it actually makes us more efficient as a business. So we can continue to deliver those great experiences and products to you every day. So going back to the original question around sort of the two sides of the same coin, there's a lot of work that is not necessarily happening today around artificial intelligence from a corporate perspective that really needs to come to the fore. So that chief AI officer, I do hope that they are as equally focused on the change aspect of this, and not just change management, but also change leadership, creating that vision and that rallying cry as anybody else in the organization might be.
Yeah, and spot on with change leadership and knowing that we need to bring everyone along, give them the tools, and they need 100%. To be clear as to what it's used for. And speaking of which, you and I had a previous conversation about efficiency versus effectiveness and another potential pitfall. Share your thoughts on that. Struggling to connect the dots across your customer journeys? You're not alone. For many CX professionals, journey mapping is still manual and fragmented, especially in large organizations. JourneyTrack changes that. Their platform unifies journey mapping, management, and measurement in one place, giving you a real-time view of every touchpoint. Uncover friction, align teams, and prove the ROI of your CX initiatives so you can make smarter decisions and deliver smoother journeys. Want to see how AI can help you map smarter, not harder? Download our free white paper at journeytrack.io/podcast or click the link at the end of the show notes to get started with AI-powered journey mapping in minutes.
So I think one of the myths around AI is that it guarantees cost savings. And I think the upfront investment in infrastructure, talent, change can significantly outweigh any immediate savings, right? And also over automation can really backfire if customer satisfaction, customer delight dips too. I think that there is a little bit of a misnomer, and I think that's a pitfall that we all need to be mindful of. Most companies, frankly, I'm going to go out there on a limb and just say most, are not making money on AI right now, given the investment required to roll this out and deliver. And I think that's something that people really need to, and going back to the why and the change management, like you really need to think about what is the investment today and then when will it actually help us. I also think that more data doesn't necessarily mean better AI, right? Or better AI results. Volume without relevance is just more noise, right? I hear executives all the time say, I have so much data and not enough insight. As CX pros ourselves, we heard that practically most of our careers in some way. So like quality, annotated data aligned to clear goals, that's what drives precision. The old adage, garbage in, garbage out. The same is true with AI. It's just going to scale bad processes, bad data, and provide bad results.
So let me push you a little bit on helping us understand the limitations, sort of where does AI's capability end? Where does the human interaction need to continue to take precedence?
So I think in the super transactional, like password change, account setup, like super transactional experiences in your organization are really great use cases for AI. And I actually don't believe that the capability has limitations. Frankly, like there should be people in your organization that just think about crazy use cases all day long and how to maybe apply AI to them. And I think that's a really potentially important role to play. Where the limitation is where that human element really is required for your brand. And we've got a lot of financial services folks, who listen to this podcast. So let's think about mortgage foreclosure. Like think about the severity of that from a customer perspective. And nobody wants to go through that. But what people don't want in that situation is to have to go through it by engaging a bot. So I think it's really important for organizations to think about what are the journeys that we absolutely can transform and automate, because our customers are going through a journey where they just want to get through it quickly and they can care less if it's a human or a bot. They just need to execute quickly. It could be a service inquiry. Where is the handoff maybe from a bot to an agent as well? I mean, an agentic AI, and then what are the handoffs then to bring a human in? But then what are those really deep emotional journeys and experiences that our customers go through that we don't, as a brand, believe it should be automated? And, homeowner, like what are those big happy or those deeply sad experiences that as consumers we can go through? And I think that's where you need to look at, like, there needs to be an individual involved here to either handhold someone through a very sort of delicate or sensitive or sad experience, like a mortgage foreclosure, or something that makes you super happy, like buying even a home. So that's where I think that more thought needs to come into play in terms of, truly what are the journeys that we want to automate or enhance through AI, and which ones do we absolutely just must have people in the loop.
Excellent. Thanks, Bill. And let's drill down another layer and get into a little bit more of strategic guidance conversations to organizations. Cool. One of the things you mentioned in the last comment was agentic AI. And I had someone recently on a show who misspoke about agentic AI. He flipped generative AI and agentic AI definitions around. And I got a call out from my friend. Shout out to Eric Isle, who wrote me about this. And I missed it because I probably just assumed that he was talking about generative AI. Yeah. But I'd love for you to talk about agentic AI, what it is, and specifically how it relates to who is my customer, who is the customer going forward.
This is, by the way, a topic that we can probably spend 3 hours talking about. And frankly, I think one that so many companies are missing the mark on. So agentic AI works on someone's behalf, using tools, working towards an objective and goal autonomously. So if I am using an agentic AI browser as an example, and I use a browser called Strawberry, I say, go and book tickets for my next vacation, find hotels that are 4 stars and up. It should be, a high-end beach vacation with kid-friendly amenities, but also nice places for my wife and I to go to dinner off property, right? All right, great. Now that agent is off going and looking at places, it comes back and says, okay, here are your 3 options. Which one do you want to pick? And I say, this is the one at this price point. Thanks very much. Go and book it. At that point, I am no longer the customer. And if you have agents now that you've got to deal with as a brand who are very transactional, how do I build loyalty? How do I think about re-engaging that agent to come back and book again? So I think that marketing, certainly customer experience, certainly roles like CIOs and COOs really need to be rethinking who is the customer, because now it's 2 of them. How do I maintain a relationship with Bill, but also be able to engage their agent to make sure that they keep on coming back and buying from me? Because what an agent is going to do is it's going to expose me to brands that I never even thought of buying from in the past. Right? It's going to take my prompt and say, here are your 4 or 5 options based on what you wanted. So, and it may not be a Marriott or a Hilton that I stay at next time. So I think that there needs to be a lot of just deeper conversation internally at brands to say, who is our customer? Is it now 2 of them? And how do we ensure that if Bill is using an agent, that agent keeps on using Marriott? If Bill hasn't put in, I want it to be a Marriott property. So I think that there is, and then there's legal implications associated with that. Like, what if the agent makes a mistake and the company gets sued? What if it's the company's agent? So I think there's a lot of really complex, big questions that we still have not answered across industry that we need to. And hopefully we can get there pretty soon.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be an interesting ride. And you bring up a great point about who is the customer and how do we impact? And I guess those answers are still evolving, but it's a really good question that I think we need to ask. How might AI prove actionable insights directly to customers or empower employees who serve them?
So I think that, look, it's happening today. You have organizations out there, a large credit card company with a blue logo. I won't mention the name, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they are creating synthetic NPS based on the sentiment of every contact center call. They're no longer surveying customers, or they do every once in a while to train the model that they've built. And that also delivers coaching for the next call. And that's a great use case to be able to enhance the experience for the employee so they continue to improve and deliver better experiences to your customers. And they've been doing this for several years now and continue to refine and build on that capability. So I think it's really interesting ways like that, helping you understand your ideal customer profile, resegmenting your customers, creating personas based on customer activity. There's countless ways that you can leverage AI to get smarter around who your customer is, what's important to them, and then what should I be building next to continue to enhance that experience and keep them coming back. So many organizations are working towards that and through that capability today in that way. And I'm super excited about sort of like where this and how this evolves as well.
When we talk about the customer journey in that regard, where the journey is no longer monolithic. We've got ways that customers interact with us.
Correct.
And they are walking information beings. For example, they may have a wearable iWatch. They've got their phone on them. They've got data there. They could have through Zoom. They're working on Zoom or on Facebook, on social media. And Ray-Ban is coming out with some glasses that can do amazing things. So we've got the whole wearable piece. how can AI help organizations deliver a better customer experience and help ultimately with business outcomes that the C-suite's really interested in?
Yeah, so great question. I think that, CX is no longer, I hope, although in many cases it still is, unfortunately, CX no longer is like do the survey and then go, develop the report and say, here are your 5 pain points, go fix them. I think voice of the customer surveys have a spot, but like voice of the customer feedback and insights and signals generally, operational data, financial data, behavioral data, digital surveys certainly still. AI can help bring all that data together for us, analyze that data, and produce results that are aligned to what we want to deliver and drive from a strategic perspective. So years ago, really a long time ago, while at Credit Suisse, we flipped the question on its head and saying, if the firm wants to drive revenue by 10% this year, how do we design experiences that drive revenue by 10%? You can design experiences in a customer-friendly way that also help you deliver a strategic objective. I think AI is going to help us accelerate that, plus be able to identify new and novel ways to deliver those experiences for us. So, one, certainly around aggregation and delivery of insights. 2, being able to automate closed loop feedback based on those insights in real time with customers to maintain that loyalty, to fix those issues quickly. And then 3, being able to deliver real time information to people that interact with customers every day so that they can engage the customer in a way they want to be engaged with and develop ideas, solutions, commentary, dialogue in a way that makes that bond richer and stronger with your end consumer.
Yeah, and also affirming that and also adding on to that, another cut is I had Jason Barrow, who's the founder of NPS Prism at Bain, on the show a while back, and he talked about the ability to know which levers drive loyalty and which ones to pull on and how far to pull on them. In other words, you can overspend or overvalue a particular one to the point where as long as you're X percentage better than your next closest competitor, that's all you need to do. How do you think AI can help with that sort of intelligence?
Well, I think that it's going to be able to look at all this data in a different way and not necessarily from the perspective of, what someone might do. I think that you're going to have much clearer cause and effect analytics embedded into your workflows. In fact, even workflows can be treated like a product now because of AI, that's going to deliver insights to us much faster than an NPS model might. I think still asking the question is valid, and I love the metric in certain contexts, but I also think that AI will accelerate sort of time to insight or time to understanding. It will certainly accelerate time to action based on those insights, but it's also going to be able to look at larger sort of swaths of data so we can truly understand what those levers are, but then with precision, to your point, pull and push on those levers in a most economical way for the company to push and pull on them, right? Like in the past, we did a survey, we pulled or pushed a lever, we did another survey to see how much that moved, right? After the fact, right? Now it's going to be much more real time. And we see that with journey analytics capabilities today, other technology that's able to look at real time, what's happening and why, and then how is that impacting your business objectives?
Yeah, which is a big deal because that lag can create all sorts of inefficiencies, customer churn, and ultimately impact the numbers.
100%. And your competitors are sitting there, picking up the pieces while you're trying to figure out where they fell. So, that is a really big deal for an organization to be able to figure out. And, again, like with all things, it comes down to what am I trying to achieve? Do I have the talent to achieve those objectives? Do they have the tools to be able to achieve those objectives? And how quickly can we put them in front of people to start achieving those goals? So yeah, it's an exciting time. Scary as all get out too, but certainly an exciting time.
Yeah, I appreciate you acknowledging that. I think there are a lot of people listening who appreciate you saying that, and it is scary.
It is, and I think part of it is just admitting, look, we don't have all the answers, but we're going to start small. We're going to build from there, and we're going to do this together. And that message, I think, resonates. And I think, it takes sort of the fear out of this stuff, at least a little bit, so people are more motivated and driven to use these tools in an effective way.
Excellent, Bill. Great conversation. I want to, so many great tools, so many great insights here as we navigate this uncertain future. I want to end with one question that I ask all my guests, which is, what does it mean to you? Or I better said, what delights you as a customer?
I think for me, I'm pretty easy on brands given the work that I've done in my career. I think for me, it's just like, and maybe it's easier said than done, but like what my expectation, did my experience match the expectation? Is there any daylight between those things? And I give brands a lot of grace because I understand how complex and hard that is to actually do and close that gap. But I think what makes me happy is like, are you actually making my life better? Like, are you helping me be a better person? Like, really quick story. I love my Traeger grill. I'm sorry to mention a brand on the show, but like I smoked a 15-pound bone-in, pork butt the other day. That made me super happy. It created joy for my family because they love, tacos with smoked pork. So like, is the product or is the brand or the service, is it actually helping me create joy or happiness for the things that are meaningful to me? Yeah. And I think that is a really tough thing to do, I think, because it's so personal. Like I'm a sample of one, but that's what I really, that's what I'm looking for in brands.
Excellent. Bill,
it's a great question.
If our listeners would like to get a hold of you to chat more, what's the best way?
Hey, look, I'm on LinkedIn regularly. Feel free to DM me. My contact details are on LinkedIn as well. I put them out there, and happy to have a conversation if you got any questions, and if you need any help, just let me know. I'm here to help.
Bill, thanks so much for coming back on the Delighted Customers podcast.
It's been great to be with you again, and really appreciate you having me on.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Delighted Customers podcast. It would mean so much if you would take a moment to subscribe. You can go to Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts, click on the plus sign or follow button, and that will ensure that you don't miss an episode, and it helps get the word out to others. While you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave a 5-star review. I look forward to seeing you back here next Thursday.